everyone. This is Dr. Vicki Brichter, Artistic Director of the Boulder Chorale. Welcome. So glad you decided to join us. I hope you enjoyed our first segment that we sent out to our wonderful audience and community of donors and singers. Our first segment was on Joslyn Ford Keel, who talked about the Fisk University Jubilee Singers, one of the great choirs in the world, indeed. Of which she was a part of for many years as an undergraduate. And today's session is with Dr. Julie Simson, who is a revered and retired now professor of voice from CU, I believe mezzo-soprano. And Julie is just a wonderful, charming and witty and extremely knowledgeable speaker about the voice. This was one of our favorite sessions from the fall. And so here she's going to be talking about some basic concepts. Our session with her was an hour and a half, and you'll see about a 20-minute segment from that. So sit back and relax. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for joining us. All righty. So Miss Julie, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone. It's a new venue, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's great that you still are getting together, and we just have to keep making music as best we can in as many different ways as we can. So it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I thought we might do sort of the beginning and the end. There were some questions about what does a beginning singer want to concentrate on the most? Is it breathing? Is it posture? Is it, what is somebody who's just sort of starting, or maybe they've been singing a while, but all of a sudden they're in lessons or something, what is the most important thing for a beginning singer to concentrate on? And then I thought after that, we might follow up with, because this was one of the biggest questions that we got, was how do you care for the aging voice? What warm-ups are good for that? Does range have to decrease as you get older? So why don't we start with those two things?
Well, when you're a beginning singer, you come into singing because you love to sing. And I think that we can all say that that's what we started doing. We loved to sing. We were either in church choirs or singing in the elementary school music program. And so the basic things that we want to teach a young singer is, I think Vicki was right, you want to teach posture, because since the instrument is housed inside our bodies, we have to be aware of our bodies in many, many different ways. And so posture is really the beginning. And you'd be surprised, most of us have really poor posture. And so in a way, I actually teach that no matter what age level of singer I have. So posture for sure. And then understanding the difference between an everyday walking down the street breath and a singer's breath. And that takes a little bit of understanding the body to describe how to breathe. But if you can get a good concept of breathing in the very beginning, then the tone quality will be even better because of it. So I think I usually start with posture and breathing, and then I give them some very easy vocalises that help with understanding diatonic pitch so that their ears get really good as fast as possible. And you can tell pretty quickly whether a person has a good ear or not. If they have trouble singing a 5-tone scale as a beginning singer, then you go even simpler. And so yeah, I guess that's the way I would start, is posture, breathing, and pitch accuracy.
Can you demonstrate? I know you're not full body there, but is there any way you can show them a little bit in terms of maybe some of the common posture errors that you see, or what how you recommend students start working with their posture?
Well, starting from the bottom, the things that are really common is that people tend to stand square on their feet, locked kneed, feet parallel to each other, and you really want to stand with one foot slightly in front of each other so that you have good balance side to side and front to back. And you want to be able to have good bend of knee position so your knees can be really flexible. You neither want your knees continually bent nor continually locked. And then you want to pay attention to your hips, because when we take a breath, the hips can tip forward or back. So when you take a breath, usually what happens is the abdominal wall lowers and the hips tip back. And that you want to kind of try to prevent. So maybe I can actually stand here and show you. I don't know if I can or not. Let's see.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what usually happens is that when we take a breath, we lower our abdominals and tip our hips. So the hips have the ability, didn't know I was going to be showing off my body here tonight, but the hips have the ability to tip forward and back. And if we take a breath, this is what usually happens. And so if you notice when you're singing that the small of your back is starting to get tired, it's because your hips are in the wrong position. That's really common, especially with singers standing on risers, because it's an awkward position. And so you always want to make sure your hips, your tailbone is tucked under in a way so that your hips don't tip forward and back, and that the rib cage then stays more open because the hips aren't collapsing forward or backwards. And that's something that takes a little bit of practice for a beginning singer. They don't understand that at all. Easy ways to kind of do that is to take breaths leaning against a wall, something like this. Like this. So you can lean with your legs bent, and the small of your back should have awareness to the wall, but not completely flat to the wall, because the spinal cord, of course, is, or the spinal column is arched down there. So, but this really helps a young singer understand alignment. And I think that because we come into singing as just, it's such a fun thing to do, and it's so much a part of our lives every day of our lives starting young, we don't think about our bodies at all. And that's something that's really important, to get a good awareness of your body. And the more that you can kind of hone in on that early, the more a singer is going to be able to imitate what you've taught them as a teacher to be able to make good sounds.
Great.
I don't know if you could actually have seen me do that, but anyway.
We did. We did. No, that was good. That was good. How do you explain breathing to singers who are just starting?
Well, I think you start with real basics of just inhalation and exhalation. What is that? What is that? What does that feel like? What does that look like? And then you talk about the rib cage. So the rib cage can be very passive if we're not careful, meaning that it can sit unopened, and then no air can actually really maintain the capacity of the lungs. So you want to make sure that you really have this idea of what a singer's posture is, which is a real open body. And then when you have that, then you can do some actually pretty aerobic breaths with a young singer to have them learn their rib cage. And one of the things is the intercostal muscles between the ribs are the last ones to develop. So they go through puberty, and those intercostals are kind of, and you can think of them like barbecued ribs at a restaurant. You know, they're gristly and tight. And so to get them to spread apart, you have to do pretty aerobic breaths. So one of the things that I do is I have them hold their hands up to their mouths like this, and I have them make a fairly loud sound. Like they're inhaling in a very aggressive way, but it's not aggressive to the throat. It's just aggressive right to the lips. The minute they do that, their rib cage goes, and it's fabulous because they've never experienced that before. And I actually use that as well with singers of all levels because I think the rib cage tends to be the most passive. So, so that's kind of how I start. And then after you take in an aerobic breath, then you teach them hiss or sh, and you do it in various lengths of time so that they learn how to manage breath. Because the natural breathing of the body is we take in a breath and we go, and the singer has to go, and because our whole lives we've done it this way, that's why we run out of breaths at the end of phrases, because we've done it that way our whole lives.
So let me ask you a follow-up to that, and then we can get back to the main part of the question. But um, I would imagine that when singers hear you talk about opening the rib cage and that sort of thing, that there can also be a lot of tension created with that. So how do you talk to singers about, and this was also one of the kind of themes that I noticed in the questions was about understanding the balance between necessary muscular tension and relaxation.
I think that still remains in the calmness of the throat. So if the energy in the breath is still calm in your throat, then you've got a good breath. If the energy from the breath creates tightness in the throat, then you don't have a good breath. And the more, I think understanding a calm throat is also really important. So I'll do things like I'll alternate the amount of time that a singer has to take a breath, from a fast breath to a slow breath. So they get the understanding. And singers are different. Some people are good at fast breathing and some people are good at slow breathing. But if you alternate it, so you just do like a simple vocalese and you change the amount of time in between, and they have to do a calm throated breath every time. So even if they have to take a fast breath, if they do it like this, and their throat stretches like that, you know that's a tight throat and it's not, and the breath is actually not efficient. But if they take a calm throated breath, and you can take it slowly or you can take it fast, but the throat has to remain calm. And that's really tricky because, of course, if you get a really fast piece, you want to hyper elevate the throat, and then when that happens, then the tone goes right out the window. So
Yeah, I know, singing teachers use a lot of terms like they say, there's a cathedral in the back of your throat and all that kind of thing. How do you describe when you're talking about the calm throat? What does it mean to you? How do you just work with singers on that?
a calm throat is a relaxed tongue in a forward position, so the tongue tip is to the teeth and the side of the tongue are to the side teeth. And um, and the energy is only below the collarbone, from the collarbone down, rib cage down, I guess you could say. So that's really tricky. So what is real typical of young singers that haven't had any experience is they physicalize everything they see on the page. So if they see tra la 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 la, they're going to do tra la 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 la. They're going to either physicalize it with their head or even with, if they had no consonant, ah, 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 ah. Well, the minute they do that, their throat is engaged. And so you may say, oh my God, how is that possible? The instrument is the throat, but the throat has to remain calm. I
Yes.
don't know if that answered your question quite right or not.
Yeah, no, that's a great description. So I think you've done an excellent job talking about a beginning singer or a young singer. In terms of the aging voice, and you guys, when we say aging voice, I mean, to me, that's your voice starts aging as almost as soon as it matures, that it's sort of, it's mature for a while and then it's, it's on the downslope. So how do you, what do you talk to students about who are older singers? What warm-ups you give? The question, does the range have to decrease? What do you say to older singers?
Well, the bottom line is that because we're working with our muscles, we have to maintain our musculature in every way, in walking down the street, in uh, going to the gym, in swimming, everything is aerobic, and so is singing. And so if we stop singing and the muscles atrophy, then the flexibility of the instrument won't be as you won't have as much ability. So my first suggestion is that you make sure that you sing somehow every day, and you want to sing no less than 15 minutes a day, maybe even 20 to 30 minutes a day, and you'll instantly notice that your voice will be more supple and easier to, you won't have to warm up as long, and you won't have to warm up as often because you've maintained your singing instrument on a regular basis. It's just like me. If I do 20 sit-ups and the next day I do another 20 and the next day I do another 20 and wonder why I can't do 100 sit-ups, it's exactly the same thing with a voice. So, darn it. Kind of like gaining 20 pounds and losing 20 pounds.